Hello and welcome to Bruno's Geek Reviews and to a new episode of How to Not Be a Bad Roleplayer. First of all, I'm going to do a quick backtrack about something I said in a previous episode where I was mentioning reasons one should use rules-light games for and reasons one shouldn't use them for. And I said that one shouldn't use rules-light systems to bring new players in. And my argument was, if the player is interested, doesn't matter if he has a lot of rules to learn or not, he'll be interested. I think differently now. I thought about it. I'm a little bit less bitter about what happened with my previous two groups. And you know, because the first episode of How to Not Be a Bad Roleplayer was a lot of it was my reaction to some really bad experiences with players. And I'm a little bit more optimistic now. I'm looking forward to my new campaign, like I have with some friends. Like I'm gonna start a new game with them. One of them is even a player from those other two games, but she wasn't a problematic one. And I actually decided to use, give me a moment here, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which is a retro clone of D&D. And very rules light, especially compared to Pathfinder, which is the D&D I usually play. And you know, I'll get into why I picked this in another series. It'll just be like, I don't know, I just want to like do also a series where I just talk about maybe RPGs in general, and I'll talk about my campaign and all that. And I'll continue How to Not Be a Bad Roleplayer, but there'll be two different things. So in the other series I'll talk a little bit more about why I chose this. But all that to say that it was really fun. Like one of my friends who came on board, and the other Monday we created the characters. That's all we did. And now there's going to be Easter, so we're not going to play next Monday. But the other one after is when we'll actually start playing. And basically, the character creation was easy, and then it took me like 5 minutes to explain the rules to him. So that's pretty cool, and I think yeah, it can help new players, you know. So I take it back, like not all of the episode, just that part of it. I do think, however, that if someone is interested, you can bring them into a really rules-heavy game. They'll be interested anyway. But I think it might be more enjoyable for a new player to not have to deal with too many rules at first. Generally speaking, you know, like I'm not saying they'll lose interest if they have to deal with more rules, but maybe it'll be more enjoyable for them if they can just appreciate the role-playing aspect. So anyway, now onto what I wanted to mention, like because last time I addressed players a lot, and this time I'm gonna address players and game masters, and basically, what this episode is about is don't be an entitled jerk. What does that mean? It means you shouldn't have expectations other than having fun with your friends and having a fair game master as a player. And as a game master, you shouldn't have expectations for a story other than you know who the NPCs are, you know how they'll react to what the players did in previous sessions, so you know what the plans of the NPCs are, and that's it. You shouldn't plan ahead what's going to happen. You should know what the NPCs intend to do, both good and bad, but you don't know what players will do. No, don't write a script. Don't be like entitled about your story. You know, if you don't tell a story, do web series, write a novel. You know, when you're playing a role-playing game, you're supposed to how can I put this? You're not reading a story to the players when you run a role-playing game. You're letting your players live in a story. So what? It's a little bit hard to explain. How can I put this? Like, for example, don't think of an NPC that's untouchable. Like, I mean, some NPCs can be untouchable in the sense that, like, if you have a group of level 1 characters and there's a mountain over there with a dragon, and the players are not ready, and they decide to go attack the dragon anyway. You know, yeah, the dragon is untouchable in the sense that he's way too powerful for the players at that level. But don't make them untouchable in, like, when I say that, I mean in another sense too. Like, For example, let's say you have your kind of like big bad for the game. It's kind of like the Darth Vader of the campaign, and the players tell a really good way to defeat him. Like they set up a trap, and like despite what you thought would happen, they found a way to defeat him. Let them have that victory, because otherwise, like, don't take that away from them. If something that should have been hard is easy because they were smart, good for them. But at the same time, don't soften up stuff if they act stupid, you know. And but at the same token, like sometimes players can have a good idea that is good in itself, but because of things they don't know about the NPCs or the setting or whatever the situation yet, it's not gonna work even though it was a good idea. Don't be afraid to not have it work. But that's the thing. Be a fair game master. Don't be entitled regarding your story. Just have it happen the way it logically should happen. And players, this isn't an MMORPG where you're entitled to like leveling up quickly and getting all the loot just for playing a little bit. Like you don't get anything for just showing up. You have to work for it. You want treasure, you want rewards, you want your character to gain levels. Play intelligently. And also, what I hate is, like, there's players who really want their characters to be cool. They like, if the character, like, falls sick because of a wound that got infected, if they're fighting on ice and they slip on the ice, these players, like, they seem to get really annoyed, and they feel like it's so unfair that their characters get that, you know, and what do you want, like, think about it, like, think of those heroes who never fail and are always cool. Like, think of, like, I don't know, Resident Evil movies. They're so boring. Like, to me anyway, they are. Like, the heroine is always looking cool. It's all about her looking cool. It's never about the story. It's just like she's doing, like, a slow motion high kick and whatever. And it's like, she's always cool. Yeah. Those kinds of characters, you know, where they never fail. They just look cool the whole time, and they feel utterly boring. But now I'm gonna name a few characters who I think people would agree with me are considered cool. Han Solo from Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jack Sparrow, John McClane from the Die Hard movies. These characters are considered to be really cool. But if you think about it, if they were RPG characters, they actually fail their checks pretty often. For example, Indiana Jones, and the very first time we see him try to disarm the trap to take the idol from where it is, he fails and has to run away from a rolling boulder, and then this like bad guy NPC tricks him into handing over the idol, and he has to run away. Like, so like we constantly see Indiana Jones in situations that happen to player characters. He gets tricked sometimes. He fails, but at the end he perseveres and he's smart and he thinks of things, like he tries to think his way out of situations, and sometimes when he should have failed because he did the right, like he thought of something, or that's what I mean, like, you know, and he is cool, he's considered cool. And Han Solo, same thing, he wouldn't always succeed in everything, he would make mistakes sometimes. That didn't make him any less cool. John McClane is always beat up, and you know, it's what I mean. It's don't have expectations. Don't be entitled. Don't think that your character is above having bad stuff happening to them. If it happens to them, like, just take it in stride. Try to think of ways to just keep playing. Have fun. Don't feel like you're expected, like you should be given something just for being there. And game masters, don't feel like your world is sacred. Your world is not sacred. It's there so the players can have fun. It's not a story you're telling by yourself to the players. So anyway, it's a little bit hard to describe. It's kind of an attitude that a lot of people often talk about it, but they kind of like split it into different subjects, like about game masters who railroad their stories and players can't do anything, or stuff like that. But I feel like it's actually a single problem in the mentality of a lot of players and game masters, where they feel entitled, like they're their setting is entitled to being respected and treated like this sacred thing. And if the players kill an NPC that he doesn't want dead, suddenly the game master will decide at the last minute that the NPC had better stats and survived, even though he didn't or she didn't at first. Stuff like that, which is very unfair to players, and vice versa. Like, it's unfair if players expect things like rewards without giving any effort, or are angry when the game master throws them like in situations that are beyond them. Because players have to know when to run away too. Look at Indiana Jones did in the example I gave in Han Solo in Star Wars. He's running after a few stormtroopers and he turns the corner and there's a lot of them and he runs away because he can't handle that. It's all about like knowing, like, you have to play smart. Don't be a jerk about things like that. I had a player who complained every time, like, at some point his character got sick because they fought in sewers against were-rats, and it says in the Monster Manual in 3.5, you have to roll fortitude or you fall sick when fighting were-rats because the cuts can get infected and stuff like that. And the character had a fever, and the player was pissed at me because, oh, you want my character to die or something. Like, don't be like that. Don't feel entitled. Don't feel like your character should go through the story like a breeze, Like, look at John McClane in Die Hard, like... he's the perfect example of hit points. Like, having a lot of them. John McClane had a lot of hit points, and, yeah. Just when you go to a game, just go there to have fun. Don't feel like the reason you're going there is so you get like more stuff to add to your sheet. It's fun when it happens, but it's a reward. It's not the norm. That's what people have to understand. Is like those kinds of rewards are rewards. They're not just like the norm. They're not like punching a clock and like anyway. Yeah, I hope I kind of like described it clearly. Anyway, if any of you have comments or stuff you want to add about what I said, or disagreeing, or agreeing, whatever, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be glad to reply when I have time. And thanks for watching.